put Josh Allen an inch ahead because he's Josh Allen. I think Bradley Chubb, again, kind of a sneaky, smart signing, going to give you about 9, 10, 11 sacks. And DJ Moore, because the Colson Loveland and Luther Burden exploded last year at the end of the year for the Bears, people think, well, DJ Moore's numbers dropped. DJ Moore is still a number one, never misses starts, tough player. So Chubb and DJ Moore, to me, are some really nice B-plus added elements. Buffalo at 4.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast, live on YouTube. I'm your host, Bill Season Ticket Holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And that was Colin Cowherd from this week's Herd Hierarchy segment, where it's funny when you hear people bloviate all day long, every day, and they get away with it because they have giant platforms. They're not going to get fired. They can say whatever the hell they want. And so they say a lot of inflammatory things that catch a lot of eyes and ears and get them a lot of clicks. And that happens to be the name of the game. There are some people who do it better than others. Nick Wright is a savant in the art of riling up fan bases, specifically ours, for his own financial gain. Colin Cowherd's never struck me as one of those guys. And so when I heard this, I did the same thing that some of you just listening to that did. I said, wait, well, what the hell did I'm sorry. There was something crazy in my ear because I thought someone just said the Buffalo Bills were the fourth best team in the NFL. And it's not just fourth best team in the NFL. Number one team in the AFC. Chris, if you want to go ahead and throw the graphic up there for everybody who's listening and watching live already. I know. Thank you for everybody who shows up each and every week. Now that the regular season's over, we do love and appreciate the support. Colin Cowherd,
number 4,
is bullish on the Buffalo Bills.
Seattle, Chicago, and the Rams.
And then who's behind us, Chris?
Broncos, Chargers, Texans, Eagles, Patriots, Lions.
It's interesting, one, just how far down you see the Patriots in this. You see the Chargers, the Texans, and you go, it's easy to have the, I see this and I see Skid Valve in the comments that goes, what did he say? Drew's going to gaslight us into believing his team.
Talking about gaslighting.
The moves are good. And it's like, well, guys, maybe it doesn't have to do with the moves. Maybe it's more about where the floor already is. And I think that that's something, right? Like, I've been thinking about this for weeks now. We do the reaction podcast where we sit here and we talk about the free agency moves and we discuss their value and how this impacts things. And then we as fans take to social media and decry the fact that our favorite guy, Roy Lopez goes off to Arizona again. And,
we have to console Anthony.
We have to literally we have to light a candle quietly in a dark room for Anthony Prohaska over a cover one. It's just not to be, sir. In another lifetime, maybe you and Roy Lopez will find each other. And we hand wring over the immediacy of everything going on in free agency because it feels like we're losing. And when we're not making giant swings for the fences, it feels like we're falling behind. But some of that is a byproduct of not really taking stock in where we are right now.
The floor is in Drew's absent father's house. Skid Valve.
Now that's how you comment on YouTube. That is how you comment. So tonight, one of the things I want to look at is the statement made by Colin Cowherd and just whether or not it's true, because I heard for weeks, right, that the Ravens making a trade for a pass rusher and then blowing it up and then trading for a worse one somehow made them the most dangerous team in the AFC. And then I've heard how the Broncos are now the team after the Waddle trade. Thinking about it all, is it really as bad as it feels right now? I don't think it is.
No, it's not, because look at that. Fresh hair.
Your stupid hair.
Fresh hair. I already got you covered.
Somebody got a haircut.
Right. I went to Josh Allen's guy, carved my dome. I look pretty.
I just happened to look up at the comments, and Wataska Mitchell throws in there, I'm smoking a strain called Death Claw. Sir, Now, I will say that I did play Fallout, so I'm hoping that's a reference to that. Otherwise, God bless you and everybody who's going to have to spend the next 6 hours with you, because I've done that before. I've lived the Cat Williams sketch where he's like, yeah, this thing's called deaf. And he goes, what, deaf? I don't want to die. He goes, no, deaf. You smoke, you can't hear nothing. I have shit to do today. I've lived that. Good luck to you. I hope you make it out the other side. The Buffalo Bills have a really talented roster, even if we don't think Brandon Beane did enough to elevate the floor of that this season, this offseason, throughout the free agency process. I want to take a start by looking at, Chris, if you want to throw this separate, like if we're going position by position, think about where it's the most important. First of all, quarterback, you could argue, not argue. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to fight with anybody whose name on Twitter is Drake May is King 5758. You can kick rocks. You and me can't even talk to each other because I already know where you're coming from, and it's a place of dishonesty. When you take a look around the NFL and then the AFC East and you think about tackle play, let's start there. What's important to a winning team? Take a look at what the AFC East has to offer in terms of tackles. You've got a Deion Dawkins and a Spencer Brown. Now, I don't care about our depth. That's not what we're here. We just got done recording an offensive line podcast. But look who is an offensive line draft podcast with Russell Brown. Let me preface that.
Will Campbell's falling fast, I'll tell you that.
Look at what we're dealing with compared to everybody else in the Patrick Paul. You know, Elfar Tiaga used to come on this podcast and talk all the time about Patrick Paul and how great he was going to be, and he was pushing Teron Armstead. Well, he's going to have to. He's going to have to beat Teron Armstead because he's all you have. Austin Jackson is injury-fueled and awful most of the time. He's got a new coach, new coordinator, new scheme. There's no guarantee that guy even is worthy of putting on the field. Will Campbell and Morgan Moses are hilarious. Everybody watched Will Campbell get his pants pulled down and his ass spanked on national TV during the Super Bowl. Morgan Moses is old. He's older than dirt. Chris, how old do you think Morgan Moses is? Can you give that a Google for me? He's not just a veteran journeyman. He's a veteran's veteran. He's a guy that old guys in the NFL called Unk. They call him Unk.
35.
You're a 35-year-old tackle, and Will Campbell, whose arms are so short, when everyone said, oh, he might be a guard. I don't know. You look like a guard during the Super Bowl, sir.
Your favorite commenter is back, 9999 Deoxys. Will Campbell's going to move to guard this year.
Of course he is, because he's not that good. And then you look at Ola Fashanu and Armand Membu for the Jets, who you want to say they're good because their tape looks good, but the Jets offense has been such dog shit that I don't know if anything here works. So when it comes to tackles, the Buffalo Bills clearly have the best one in the entire division. Interior offensive line, you could make a lot of the same case. You know, the Patriots paid for theirs in free agency, overpaid in some perspectives. And what do the Dolphins have? You know, they were still fielding Liam Eichenberg last year. I don't know who their guards are, and I really don't care. I feel like whoever's there, I feel like, Chris, can I say this and not be crass? I feel like they almost went cheap on the interior offensive line because they were kind of hoping, like, hey, if this goes poorly, at least we have an excuse to move on from Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
And it did. And they did move on from Tua. They just moved on from the coach and the GM at the same time. Interior offensive line, Jonas Sevenea was a sieve last year. Jamari Sellier is a free agent. I have no idea what the hell he's supposed to be. The crippled Elijah Vera Tucker and Michael Wenwu are going to be the Patriots' interior offensive line. And Dylan Parham and Joe Tippmann are the interior offensive line for the Jets. I'm not scared of any of those guys. Connor McGovern balances out what we have going on in the middle, even if we don't add in the draft.
Can we go to Skid Valve for $4.99, a Wendy's double stack? Pats fans got to have it eating in the back of their heads that last year may have been the peak, and it may be all downhill. Full Marino.
999 Deoxys in the comments. I know you guys love me. I do like Bills fans in person. You're good people, but the window is officially closed now for Allen. Pat's Dynasty 2.0. Let's talk about that, sir, because next up on the docket is wide receivers and where the wide receivers rank in our own division right? Because that's how you really kind of impose your will in the playoffs is you make the playoffs and you get a home game in the playoffs. So when I look at that, let's take a look. Like we feel as Bills fans, we walk around talking about how depleted our wide receiver room is. Look around. Who has it definitively better? There's no team with a verified 1,000-yard receiver outside of Buffalo and the Jets. And who's throwing the ball in New Jersey right now? There's no team with a wide receiver with the yards after the catch numbers that Khalil Shakir has. Depth is a division-wide problem. People talk about the Bills not having depth.
Patriots will be waiting for Kyle Williams to break out this year.
Okay, and that's great. Kyle Williams, has he done it? Because until then, you don't hold the candle to Khalil Shakir. You just don't. And then I'll take it even a step further. The Dolphins don't have a single wide receiver on their roster qualified to be called an NFL wide receiver 2. The Jets have dart throws like A.D. Mitchell, who the Colts completely gave up on, and sophomore Arian Smith, who was a 4th-round pick. And those are the guys who you're putting around Garrett Wilson. I know Garrett Wilson's talented. I also know that he needed 158 targets to make it to 1,000 yards. So is he good? I don't know, Chris.
Super Mexican Pat's Dynasty won't outlast Chris's latest hippie hairstyle.
The hippie hair? I don't think that's hippie hair.
I did before I got it cut. I mean, Super Mexican hasn't seen this. My beautiful locks flowing way shorter. I run my fingers through it. My wife loves it. I have exceptional hair.
And for 999 Deoxys, he says Pat's receivers are the worst in the division, agreed, but they will win with the best defense and best running game. All right, well, let's talk about it. Our offensive line is better than yours. Our running back is better than anything the New England Patriots have in their stable. And that's not debatable. The Patriots have Dobbs and Boutte, which are fine. You have fine wide receivers in those two, but outside their top 3, those guys have 0 NFL playing experience. Meanwhile, you look at Buffalo. We have a decent wide receiver 2 who flirts with wide receiver 1 upside and more. We did overpay, but who gives a shit? He's here. It's not my money. And everyone goes, oh, well, the draft capital and the cap hits. I don't care. Burn the boats. Figure it out. Go put winners on the football field. And they are. You've got a 3rd-year player in Keon Coleman who sometimes teases you with what his upside could be. A fantastic slot option in Shakir. And then you have the replacement for Curtis Samuel in Palmer. And by replacement for Curtis Samuel, I don't mean schematically. I mean the guy who he's on your roster and he earns a salary and you get to show up and cuss about him every single week for being too injured to ever actually earn his paycheck. We've hit every note. We have everything now. I think one of the more important ones, when I look at what fueled the Buffalo Bills offensive success last year, Chris, it's that tight end room. When you look at our tight end room and you go around and you look at what everybody else has, we have Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, and Jackson Hawes. Jackson Hawes was the highest rated run blocking tight end in football. In fact, he was one of the highest rated run blockers at any position, period, for a period of time to start the season. Dalton Kincaid, in terms of his EPA per play when he was on the field, blew whole franchises away. Dawson Knox is just this reliable Swiss Army knife who doesn't drop the ball as much as we give him credit for, which I'll talk about in a minute. Meanwhile, Hunter Henry is what the Patriots have. They have Hunter Henry again. That's the best option they can come up with. Oh, and Julian Hill. The Julian Hill from Miami. That's a good idea. And then CJ Dupre, I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. I don't know what CJ Dupre is, guys, for the Patriots. I'm sorry.
Sophie St. George, another Wendy's double stack or current tank of gas in New York State and probably California. Wendy's double stack number 2. Smash the thumbs up. Go Bills. Appreciate the support.
Sophie, we love you.
9999 is just
I love it.
All up in the comments.
I love that we have a Patriots fan who wants discourse because I'll give it to you. He says, I want an answer. Did you think the Bills were winning the AFC before last year? No, because you saw some of the warts the roster had. Joey Bosa was their best move at pass rusher. And then you watched him take the field and just be a gross liability against the run. And you go, oh no, there's what I was afraid of. And then he got hurt and you're like, oh, there was the other side of what I was afraid of. And then the whole thing fell apart. And then you were like, well, our quarterback room, it's a rookie and it's Trey White. And I don't know if that's enough. And it turns out the rookie wasn't available. And you go, nope, that wasn't enough. We somehow managed to whittle down our depth and found ourselves in a hole again. But we still could have. Here's the worst part, Deoxys. Between us, just as dudes sitting here talking, if our team, let's say the refs, right? Refs, Buffalo versus the refs. If the refs make the right call on that pass to Brandon Cooks, we kick the game-winning field goal and we travel to Foxborough. You saw your team play that week. Do you truly believe that Josh Allen and that team that was churning out 28, 29 points per game at that point in the playoffs wasn't going to absolutely railroad you guys? Are you so confident that your cornerback play would have held serve and that Josh Allen and that offense that just throttled you in the second half, like for an all-time road comeback for this franchise, just a month prior, wasn't going to come into Foxborough and absolutely put the boots to you guys? Especially with your quarterback playing the way that he was. Are you that confident? I don't know. At the important positions, the Buffalo Bills are stacked. Yes, sir. I will take a little taste of that. I love it that my producer just goes out in the other room and brings back a bottle of Eagle Rare, just hands it to me. So when it comes to the AFC East, I think that we get a little over our skis as fans when we talk about, how dire the situation is, our talent level. Oh no, we can never compete. The Buffalo Bills are already by default better than two of the teams in the division, and the other one, it's arguable. Now, no one will know. We just got to wait for the bullets to start flying. 99 Deoxys, Bills defense was not good at all last year. Pats still would have beaten the Bills in a close game, but Bills are better than the Broncos. Thank you. I like that we can meet in the middle. I still think that the Buffalo Bills are a super competitive team within our own division with the ability to go win the thing. Like, even at free safety, you look at what every other team has done. All the Dolphins did was give away anything that mattered. The Jets acquired Minkah Fitzpatrick for God knows what reason. Defensive tackle might be the only position that the Jets have a better thing going for them than the rest of the division. That's it. And that's because they traded away Quinnen Williams and then traded for Tavondre Sweat. Like, what are we doing? At edge, the Patriots I will give them that. They're paying a lot for the privilege, but at edge, the Patriots probably have the best edge room, but the Bills are too, and we'll see what Bradley Chubb is. And if in this scheme Bradley Chubb turns on, then I would almost call it even. I don't think this is a hot take. I think Rousseau and Chubb are highly underrated. Together as a tandem in a scheme that uses them properly. Like when you go back to college and you look at where Rousseau's sacks came from, most of his sacks were covered sacks, but he was the guy cleaning it up. That was because they'd line him up out wide, like wide 9 stance, and let him rush the passer. And when the passer couldn't find a way to dump the ball off, Rousseau had already beaten his guy around the horn and had come in, muddied up the pocket, got in there, got an arm on somebody and knocked him down. He wasn't bull rushing tackles back into the pocket. That wasn't Rousseau's game. He's now probably going to get more shots at that. And Bradley Chubb was built for that role. And then they brought him into the Dolphins and kind of made him play some things he wasn't supposed to. And then obviously he had the injuries. So I just think that Rousseau is the key to this entire thing for Buffalo. If he does his job well, then yeah, I could talk about us being at least near even footing in terms of the edge play with the New England Patriots. At least even footing, or it's close. So being the best team in your division is obviously important because it's how you punch your ticket to the playoffs, get a home game. The Patriots are also fascinating in this way because to me on paper, they didn't do anything to get incredibly better than Buffalo. They came into this offseason, 99 Deoxys, you're in the comments. You're talking about the Patriots. What did your Patriots do to get markedly better heading into this year? You lost to Stephon Diggs. You've lost a Kairos Tonga. You've lost some pieces that played significant roles for you. And despite having a ton of cap space, I thought they were going to go out and trade for literally everybody. I thought the Patriots were going to hit this offseason and make some bombastic trades to try to capitalize on the rest of Drake May's window. And instead, I don't know, they're not that much better. They didn't make any leaps and bounds to improve their roster. So I don't know, is their demise real? Like, and if so, if everything, you know, everyone talks about their poor strength of schedule last year, the fact they didn't play anybody, and then once they did in the playoffs, every week their offense got less and less effective until they hit the Super Bowl where the offense just flatlined and just looked like it didn't even belong in the game. If that happens again, can I get a Sports Illustrated like video yearbook like they used to do for all the Bills Super Bowl runs? Do you remember those, Chris?
Oh, I have all of those on. I feel like I'm saying it like was it Gary Busey in Tommy in Black Sheep when Chris Farley's like, got any of them Bruce Lee movies? Got every one of them on Laserdisc. Got all the video yearbooks on VHS. You want me to hook it up to the TV out there? I'll put it on. All of them on VHS.
Chris, what I love is that Deoxys is now arguing with people, and he just put in the comments, the Pats defense will be the best in the league this year. Deoxys, do you want to make a Seagram's bet on that?
Dougie's in the chat.
Doug, Philly wants 2 first-round picks for Brown. He will not be traded. Deoxys, just let me know. Do you want to make a Seagram's bet? Because it's how we do things around here. Here we go. Just give me a little bit of your liver. Push you a little bit closer to diabetes if you're wrong. Are you willing to wager that? Let me know. Then if you take that a step further and you move outside the AFC, like, I'm going to explain to you rather than just like, let me explain why I don't believe in so many of the other AFC contenders right now when you put them on an apples to apples basis with the Buffalo Bills.
You start with Baltimore.
I want to start with everybody. Let's start with the tackle room. Like I said, the Buffalo Bills have 2 great bookend tackles. Ronnie Stanley and Roger Rosengarten, which for some reason reminds me of that movie Rookie of the Year. Am I close?
Yes, Rosenblatten.
Whatever. Rosengarten.
Yeah, he couldn't get Henry Rowengartner.
Rowengarten. Yeah, they just kept calling him things. Ronnie Stanley and Roger Rosengartner are your starting tackles. Ronnie Stanley's good to blow an Achilles anytime now. He's just a ticking time bomb for injury. And Roger Rosengartner, is he good? Is he not good? I don't know, and neither do they. Let's talk about the Bengals. Orlando Brown Jr. and Amarius Mims. Do you know that the Bengals had one of the worst pass protecting and run blocking offensive lines in the NFL last year? And they did nothing in free agency to address it. They didn't sign a single offensive lineman. That's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine me being like, hey, Chris, your house is on fire. You should call 911. And they're like, no, I think the wind will put it out. And I go, Chris, it's spreading. Like, it's spreading to your yard. Your fence is now on fire. And you're like, it'll rain soon.
Yeah, I mean, what happened to Cordy Glenn?
What happened to Cordy Glenn that we got all those years ago from the Buffalo Bills? Where's he at? Hey, don't worry, guys. Cody Ford is still on their depth chart. That's how bad things are in Cincinnati. But go ahead and keep telling you how dangerous that team is. Ariante Ursery and Braden Smith, who they paid $10 million a year for down in Houston. Absolutely not. Trent Brown is a backup for Houston. I don't want to talk about them. Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey, I actually kind of like those guys. I do like what the Broncos are doing there with Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey. Kansas City has Josh Simmons and Jalen Moore. Josh, hey guys, wait until the next time he has another, hey, I've got baby mama drama and I got to get out of here. And he just bails on the team for 5 weeks. That's great. That's what you want in your first round pick. And Jalen Moore, who you're paying to be a swing tackle, who now has to be your starter because Wani Morris is terrible. Sounds good, right, Chris? They're killing it.
Yes.
The Buffalo Bills, among contenders in the AFC, have better tackles than those guys. That's why when I'm talking to Patriots fans, I'm not concerned. You can throw rocks. I don't care. I just know that my guys are really good and they're really durable and they don't cost as much as a lot of other teams' guys. It's nice. It's nice to live in this world if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. Then you go down the ladder and you say, okay, let's look at tight ends. Tight ends is a good one. Like everyone wants to talk about wide receivers. Well, we don't have the wide receivers. What of Houston? What, Nico Collins and two rookies who did nothing last year. In fact, you could trace a lot of their offensive problems back to the fact that Christian Kirk was injured. Nico Collins was injured. They banked on two rookies playing significant roles, so much so that they gave one of them a fully guaranteed contract. The Houston Texans set their ridiculous quarterback up for failure, but he would have found it on his own anyway. And
that is true.
You think about the Ravens. I saw a Ravens fan today talking about, well, if Jackson Smith and Jig was making X amount of money, how much is Zay Flowers going to make? And a bunch of Seahawks fans being like, dog, you don't have to worry about it. Zay Flowers ain't making that kind of money. It's hilarious. They literally gave him the ghost of DeAndre Hopkins. And they were like, no, this is going to be good. Don't worry. A 40-year-old wide receiver is going to go out here and catch passes. It's going to be great. Shocker. It didn't end well.
Jeremy Rogers believes Hawes is going to ball out this year.
As he should. Let's talk about tight end rooms. The Buffalo Bills with Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, and Jackson Hawes. Now, I'm over the idea of ever trusting Dalton Kincaid to be healthy. We have him on a fifth-year option. Great, wonderful. We've decided to spend $8 million on this guy. You don't pay him. You don't pay him until he can make it a 16-game season, playing 80% of the snaps instead of 20 per game. And if you don't think you can do that, then you go into this year's draft and you draft another guy who you think you can groom to be the next Dalton Kincaid for you, because you, Chris, can't afford to pay that, right?
When do we have to declare his fifth-year option?
I think they already did.
They did?
I believe they already did. But if you look around the rest of the AFC West, like I'll take that for example, because it has a bunch of these teams that are talked about as contenders in it.
Kelsey's back. Be scared.
Oh, first of all, let's talk this from the top down. Ravens only have two tight ends on the whole fucking roster. One of them's 30, and the other guy is a guy the Dolphins didn't want anymore. Way to build a room, guys. Now that they've got their first round picks back, I could see them being a team that literally sprints to the podium to draft a tight end in the first round. If Kenny Sadiq falls to them, I could see them being that team. The Chargers, all three starters are complete projections based on a few flashes in 2025. They have Aronde Gadsden, a fifth round rookie in 2025. We don't know if he's good. We don't know if his success last year from 1 week to then he killed people in fantasy in the playoffs because people banked on him. And then he got 3 points. Dude, they're like, oh no, I thought Aronde Gadsden was a part of the passing game. Joke's on you. The Chargers don't have a passing game. That's the beauty of being a Chargers fan. You never have to buy a wide receiver jersey because they don't matter. You literally just let the running backs and the offensive line try to do the work. The Chargers have no NFL proven production on their tight end depth chart at all. The Kansas City Chiefs have Travis Kelce. Now, he just signed a 3-year deal that's really a 1-year deal. If he retires, they receive no cap hit penalty for it. And he's aging like milk. But that's what happens when you marry a boring white woman. Congrats, Travis. You married a boring white woman. It's what I feel like all of his friends are probably saying, or should be. His best friend should be putting that in his ear right now if he has good friends. I wouldn't be shocked if they take a page out of the Colts playbook and follow the Ravens and just sprint to the podium to draft a tight end in the first round next year, even if it is the second best one available, because they have nothing. Noah Gray, Travis Kelce, and Jared Wiley. You have to improve that. The Broncos, the team that people thought caught the Bills this year. Evan Ingram's nice, but there's a reason that he posted last year the lowest yards per game of his career. He's not just that, he's not that durable or reliable. And like, we get pissed, Chris, when Dawson Knox drops the football and we call him stone hands. And I talk about how he's a transformer whose hands change into frying pans and that's his superpower.
Yes.
He's Teflon man. Nothing sticks to him. Like, Ingram was worse than Knox 2 out of the last 3 seasons in terms of catch percentage. And yet they've built their tight end room around him. At least the Bills aren't in that space, right?
Yeah.
Looking at some of these comments. Want to talk nothing about drafting busts. KC can't draft a wide receiver to save their lives.
Teddy Bandana's going on a cruise next week.
Ooh.
We don't, maybe we wish the Bill Burr bit happens there, where we just start randomly sinking cruise ships to get the population level down.
Well,
One of the best Bill Burr bits of all time.
My wife said to me the other night, because she knows I hate cruises. I hate the idea of being trapped on a boat. You mean to tell me that if this goes sideways, I can't just get off? I can't just go home? I'm
How
stuck
else did
here?
your family get here?
I can't wait for Dave Gear to just fight you.
What, do they walk here?
It's so funny thinking about the fact that we're still having remember the Alabama cruise, guys? Those of you in the comments, remember the Alabama cruise where they got stranded and the tanks overflowed, like the septic tanks, and the hallways were filling up with fecal matter, and it was a horror show. And they had to tug that thing into harbor and then just hose every person down as they came off the boat. It just happened again last week. Another cruise ship just got turned into what they called a horror show. Guys, that's why I don't want to go on a boat. I can have just as much fun drinking in my pool with waist deep water. I have a 1988 kayak pool in my backyard, and I could have just as much fun as I can have on a cruise, just standing in there waist deep in warm water with a cocktail in my hand. The idea of getting on a cruise ship and then getting stranded out there with all of that nonsense is one of the most terrifying things in the entire world to me. I'll jump. I know what the numbers are. Like, I'm as someone who's afraid of the ocean, I know all the statistics. I know that if you were to fall off a cruise ship, especially like out at sea, the odds of you being rescued are less than 3.5%. I would still take the jump because I'm not going to be here while everyone's puking on each other, Chris, or where it's overflowing into the hallways. I'd rather die. I'd rather take my chances and swim to shore. And I feel like that's what some of these NFL teams are doing. They're like, the fan bases are like, I don't know, am I on it? But like, think about being a Raiders fan this year. You at least have hope. You're like, well, we went to the bottom. We spent a bunch of money. Now I'm going to draft a quarterback and hopefully we can climb back up.
We tried to trade a guy and then we didn't.
Imagine being a Dolphins fan. And being a Dolphins fan, you're like, wait, what?
Imagine being Alf Artiaga.
I can't wait to talk to Alf this summer. Our conversations with Alf Artiaga from over at 3 Yards Per Carry, a Dolphins podcast, are going to be appointment listening for all of you because it will be the pettiest of our works this year. How that guy gets out of bed every day knowing he's got Dolphins paraphernalia hanging up at his house still is beyond me. I would have taken it down out of shame. I would have turned all the photo frames around. I can't look at you. I would have taken all the tchotchkes off my desk. So you look around all of the powers that be in the AFC, and I think you start to see like the wide receiver core for the Chiefs, not as good as the Buffalo Bills. The wide receiver core out in Denver is stout now, but also what's the quarterback situation? Like, how does that play into what they just added? Does the fit work? Does the scheme work? And really the last place I want to touch on in terms of where the Bills are, like philosophy-wise, roster-wise, compared to everybody else, and why it almost makes sense that a Colin Cowherd would put us in a position like this. You look at coaching. The AFC, if you're just thinking about it in terms of history and in terms of what you know about each of these teams every year, has changed significantly entering 2026. And I don't think that perennial bias has really sunk in for a lot of people. So let's run it down. First of all, in the AFC East, you have a first-time head coach in Miami with a roster that was intentionally built to struggle, just like the Bills did in 2018. They tore that thing down with the intention of sending Nathan Peterman to his death behind that terrible offensive line. And then when they saw how bad it was, they put Josh Allen in when he wasn't ready. Now the rest is history, but the reality is it went better than it should have because Aaron Glenn, who hilariously just recently got caught sleeping at the NFL Combine, he has yet to prove he's a legitimate head coach, that he's capable of preparing a team regardless of what your talent level is for game day. Think about it like this. The Bills team in 2018 that I just mentioned, this team took not just like, hey, we're going to chip away at it. They took a scalpel to that 2018 team and said, hey, remember all the guys we sold off in 2017 and everyone accused us of tanking, and then we somehow fell back asswards into the playoffs? Well, we're going to go even farther, and we're going to fix all the cap mistakes of our predecessor. Aaron, even when we did that, the Buffalo Bills still won 6 games. Josh Allen and that Buffalo Bills team that was designed to go to the basement still won 6 games. Meanwhile, Aaron Glenn couldn't hit that mark with a team that was trying to be good, or at least was trying to say, hey, we think that we're a middling roster in the NFL. You're not a middling roster if you can't win 6 games.
Or get a turnover.
Or get a single turnover on defense as a defensive head coach. You don't get to say that. So now I don't know what you are, Jets. Your head coach makes me think that no matter what I put on your roster, this whole thing might turn to crap. He could be the reverse King Midas, and he touches this thing and it turns into that pile that Jeff Goldblum's looking at in Jurassic Park when he's like, wow, that's impressive. And that matters. The Patriots have arguably the best coaching situation in the AFC. I got to give him it. Like, Vrabel is no slouch. He's a crybaby when the Super Bowl rolled around. Like, those boys were in their feelings, but he's not a slouch. And his staff is the only one in the division that didn't encounter any significant turnover in the season. So you're talking about a Buffalo Bills team who at least can hold its own and probably has the upper hand on a lot of teams in our own division. Then you go around the AFC and you look at the situations those teams are dealing with, and you realize it's not the AFC that you're used to. The Kansas City, largely viewed as our nemesis every single season, Chris. They replaced the Patriots of the drought era Bills. And yet, in a season where they're unlikely to have a fully healthy Patrick Mahomes, Reed and Spagnuolo, I don't know, they feel neutered to me. They don't have anything to work with. They literally just acquired Justin Fields. Are you out of your mind?
I think he wanted to go to Kansas City.
Who cares? Of course you would want to go to Kansas City. The question is, why would Kansas City want him?
I don't know. I mean, if Justin Fields going to Kansas City, I mean, he had to have in mind, if he is going to be the definitive backup, that he might get a start or two week 1 when the season begins. Because Mahomes is going to be at, 9-10 months when the season begins with his ACL recovery? Is that right?
Yeah, about
9-10 months?
About that. So, last minute 0 of the week, Puka Nacua. Didn't he bite a lady like a dog in public, allegedly, so we don't get sued? He's not going to sue us. What do I have? I have an LLC. Yeah, you can take the shekels in our bank account.
Yes.
Puka Nacua apparently bit a lady. I don't know. This is all happening. What I do know is that Kansas City, aging roster, starting to show its holes. They're probably not going to have a healthy Patrick Mahomes until 2027. So I don't know. They're not a problem. I'm not even thinking about them. I'm worried that some of them might lose their jobs. Also, the Ravens aren't far behind them, but their roster building has not only been confusing this season, I don't understand what they're doing with their coaching staff, right? They go ahead and they bring in Trey Hendrickson, who, yeah, he didn't cost you your draft picks. He's just not a good run defender at all. And so now he's a 2-down player in your defense. And you say, okay, cool, we can rush the passer. Did that fix our problem? No. No, it gave you a home run hitter once in a while. It didn't change your secondary's luck on first down or second down, or it didn't help your line from getting bullied off the football and run over at the linebacker level when teams are ripping off runs of 10 and 12 and 14 yards early downs. But don't worry, you brought in a defensive head coach in Jesse Minter, first-time head coach. And then you paired him with a second-year offensive coordinator, but first-time play caller, and Declan Doyle is an offensive coordinator, so he has no experience. And then you threw in third-year defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver, who was with the Dolphins and has literally never had real statistical success as a defensive scheme builder. Anthony Weaver, Declan Doyle are going to be the support structure for first-year head coach Jesse Minter. That's a ton of youth on one staff. How do you as an owner and a GM let that happen? When you look at what Joe Brady did when he got here, yeah, he was a first-time head coach. And yes, he said, I'm going to call plays. So when we were like, who's going to bring in for an offensive coordinator? What's going to happen here? He went out and got John Fox and said, hey, John, I need you to ride sidecar with me and tell me all the things about being a head coach and a CEO that I might miss. And I might need you to be a presence in the building while I help kind of parse my way through this. Because that's what having an experienced franchise builder does for you. Here's Brandon Beane going, hey, you like John Fox? I'm good friends with John Fox. You want to talk to him? I can get you two together. Let's add him to the staff. Let's just get you a friend that you could need to when it comes time to solve some problems in the locker room, when it comes time to address certain players, when it comes time to game plan for specific scenarios. You see that as so much more of a boon than what the Ravens just did to their brand new head coach. So combine that with all their roster warts, they're in trouble. And Chris, when you put youth on a staff, the only thing I can think of is Liam Cohen. Remember when against Duval. Remember when he gambled in the red zone against the Buffalo Bills in that wild card game? It's fourth down. You could kick the field goal and take the points. Experience would tell you that points in a wild card game are worth more than points in a regular season game. And instead, he decided to go for it on fourth down and didn't quite make it. Now you look back, hindsight tells you that probably cost them the game. I can tell you now that Jesse Minter will probably have his share of those moments where aggressive play calling, especially on defense, those might cost you big. And that's a problem. And then Houston. Nobody talks about this with Houston. DeMeco Ryans. Everybody applauds DeMeco Ryans for taking a Houston Texans team, building this defense, and like an all-world defense. One of the most impressive things about them is they never have to use subterfuge. They just line up. They go, we know you know what we're doing. Go ahead and try to execute it because we're so talented and our pass rush is so ferocious, you're not going to get whatever you have designed, it's not going to get off. No one will fault him for the fact that he hasn't been able to ride that ridiculous defense to a Super Bowl. But the fact is he's drowning under the weight of C.J. Stroud's descent into football hell. C.J. Stroud is one of the craziest case studies in a quarterback who hit the NFL as a rookie and peaked and has gotten precipitously worse every single season. And yet they haven't tried to find an answer. When I say they haven't found an answer, they haven't been trying. They started with Bobby Slowick at offensive coordinator in 2023 when he was hired. They fired him and swapped him out for Nick Cali this year in 2025. And those playoff game offenses this year were atrocious to watch. Also, they haven't changed the quarterback coach since they drafted C.J. Stroud in 2023, which is the most egregious issue in my mind. Chris, if you have a quarterback who's getting worse, if Josh Allen showed up, almost won Rookie of the Year his rookie season, and then proceeded to just get worse every year, do you think Sean McDermott would have fired the quarterback's coach and brought in somebody else?
I mean, I remember during the 1 year of Slowick in Houston, he was discussed in circles at like, oh, here's your coordinator that's going to come out for the coaching cycle this year. And then he didn't. And then he disappeared. And we haven't heard from Slowick since.
Because it probably wasn't that good. Every team has warts, right? It's not just the Bills. That's why so many of us, myself, what?
Just mention the warts that you used to have on your hand.
What?
You used to have warts on your hand. I was going to...
That's hilarious.
And you burned them off.
I didn't burn them off. I literally had to get, because it wasn't warts. It was actually like skin cancer. Thanks for being insensitive, prick.
Okay, Sean McDermott.
See, that's how unseriously I take everything. So that's why so many of us, myself included, are susceptible to all the hand-wringing that takes place about whether or not the Bills are going to fail. We're not going to find success, whatever. Every team has warts. It's not just us. We aren't the only team with problems. Everybody has them. The question is, can you live with them? And I feel like we get tunnel vision. We feel like the sky is falling as a fan base. But the reality is, even though it feels like we're not doing enough and that our roster's unfinished and we have these glaring holes, we still have a higher floor of talent in a lot of places that matter compared to everybody else in our conference that we're going to run into this year. And despite all the woe is meing that a lot of people have done regarding the free agent activity, the lack of trades, whatever happens in the draft, I swear to God, I know for a fact that I'm going to be getting this meme at about 10 o'clock at night in mid-October when the Bills have a winning record and just won their first game in Highmark Stadium against the Baltimore Ravens. Chris, you want to throw it up there for people? My friend made this on an app that he downloaded, that he paid to download. This is what an idiot he is. He got drunk one night and paid for an app. And when these games happen, I don't just get it on Messenger. I don't just get a text. I get a text. I get it in Facebook Messenger. I get it in my Twitter DMs. I get it on LinkedIn. He hits me with this, and it reminds me that, yeah, he's right. Yeah, he's right. The Buffalo Bills were always good. And all I can do is sit there and soak it in. So, guys, I think we all need to take a deep breath on all the sky is falling for the Buffalo Bills and say, Goose Fraba. I think we're going to be all right. Is Colin Cowherd correct? Are we a top 14? Are we the top team in the AFC? I don't know, but I know that we are much better than people are giving us credit for. Now, the last thing that we can do to really change our fortunes here this year is the NFL draft. And yet, I'm hearing a lot of stuff about that already that I don't love. Today I was driving home from the gym and I hear some idiot called WGR. And he's trying to make the point that, well, I think the Bills are going to draft a wide receiver because, they haven't replaced Reggie Gilliam yet. And I think that's them recognizing that, we really got to get away from the run. We don't have any H-back types on the roster. And so we need to go get like a KC Concepcion, or we need to go do this, and we need to throw the ball to 20, 30 times a game. And it's right there. I go, I wish that there could be a euthanasia line tied to this. Like, I wish there was a policy where if you call and you're bad, they just show up at your house. Like, all right, get in the van. We take you down to the euthanasia clinic. That's the end. I immediately get annoyed when I hear crap like this because, first of all, it's so pedantic. Like, because we don't have the fullback, we obviously are going to stop running the ball with the NFL's rushing leader last season. Yeah, we're going to get away from it. Don't worry, guys. We're just revving our engines to stop running the ball. What got me thinking is I went over it yesterday. A video dropped over at Bootleg Football, our friends EJ and Brett Coleman. And it got me thinking about this year's draft and how it's going to piss off a lot of Bills fans. We as fans here are discussing about what the Bills, quote unquote, have to accomplish in this upcoming draft. We're doing our Draft for Dummies series, the first installment of which is already available, featuring Bruce Nolan of the Bruce Exclusive, where we talk about safety play a lot.
His face is on camera.
I love how you couldn't even sell that convincingly.
We need the views. So you go see Bruce's face. It's fully on camera. You can see how much hair he has and all his facial facial features.
We actually did joke around with him about the idea that he needs to come in studio, and he didn't seem averse to it. We just have to figure out how to do it to keep the shtick alive. So one of the things that I'll say is that a lot of fans go into this process unknowingly thinking the draft is like a hardware store. I have needs X, Y, and Z. I need drywall tape. I need a box cutter. I need...
Sounds like my cookie analogy.
Yeah, I need things, and I'm just going to go in there, see aisle after aisle of products with various price points, find the one I need at the price point that I like, throw some cash at everybody, and it solves all my problems. And that's hilariously false. That's not what the NFL draft is. It's a lottery system that you use to backfill the talent of your NFL team in a way that doesn't cost you a fortune. And not only are the odds a complete dice roll as to whether or not your selections can actually deliver on that or not, also the makeup of the pool itself is not a given. And that's what makes this hilarious and fascinating at the same time. Listening to Brett Coleman and EJ Snyder, they discuss this dynamic in detail. And I think it's something I think every Bills fan out there should go listen to this week's Bootleg Football podcast at least once now, between now and draft night, which ironically falls on my birthday. Hopefully they don't give me a box of shit for my 41st. I want you guys to think with me for a second. Think back to 2013 when the Bills drafted EJ Manuel. That was a bad draft class. How do we know? Well, I'll tell you, it had all the hallmarks. It had entering it had a lack of blue chip quarterback prospects, which push other talents up the board instead of down. Had a murky top 15 to 20 player rankings that nobody could really decide on. Like players that this late in the prospect analysis process, nobody, whether it was national pundits, whether it was amateur analysts, nobody could agree in terms of value. Like, I'll give you an example. What's happening this year? Reuben Bain, top 10, top 20. Nobody knows. Nobody knows where Reuben Bain is going to be drafted. Some team could love him and take him with the 9th pick. Some team could also let him fall into the 2nd round and get, like the Osiris Torrance pick, get a steal of a player at a place where you never thought that they would fall to. The last time I saw a class like this from the top down was 2013. And guys you think won't, this will fall to 26. It won't, because GMs aren't morons. They probably go, hey, this draft class, I have 10 first-round grades. So if I really need that guy, I'm going to trade up aggressively for him. Meanwhile, there's going to be aggressive reaches that are absolutely wild. And a few GMs are going to pay for what comes out of this draft with their jobs over a long enough timeline. That year was particularly terrible for Bills fans. The team's needs didn't align with the strength of the class. I mean, this specifically the quarterback position. Think about this. What if I told you as a football fan that I was going to get my franchise quarterback and I'm going to trade back to do it? Chris, who's the last successful NFL franchise quarterback who a team was like, you know what? I don't need to take a pick in the top 5. I can get back. I can go farther down the draft board to draft the most talented quarterback in this class. And it worked out.
That's never, like, just that sentence alone. Hey, I'm getting my franchise guy. I'm going to trade back for it. That should tell you alone that class sucks. We went through some of the lists before we started recording. I think I guess the best player from that class was Travis Kelce, or Kelsey, however you choose to pronounce it. It's Kels.
It's Kelsey.
God.
It's Kelsey now that he's.
If it's Kelsey, I hate him even more.
I hope he takes her last name when he gets married. He just becomes Travis Swift.
He is a bitch.
He just becomes Travis Swift.
Yeah.
It'd be the funniest thing in the entire world.
I wouldn't be shocked. He is a bitch.
The night that the Buffalo Bills drafted EJ Manuel, I went home. I left the bar. I've never heard the air come out of a room faster. Everyone paid their tabs, and the place was vacant within 20 minutes. And I remember going home and writing a fan post over at Buffalo Rumblings and comparing the decision to take EJ Manuel similar to going to an upscale restaurant. Like, I went to the best steakhouse in Buffalo, Russell's. and I ordered their finest fried bologna sandwich.
Not Ponderosa.
That's in Springville. And I will tell you what, their bacon is exquisite. Imagine telling someone that you were going to trade back and draft that franchise quarterback. It's lunacy. Buddy Nix's finest work right there, honestly and truly. And so when you look at that year and the way it went, it was a shit show for so many teams. But that didn't mean that the class had no talent. When you look at the 2013 draft class, Chris, look it up on Wikipedia just so you and me can be on the same page. This draft class was wild, if for nothing else, the fact that the first round had a crazy number of legitimate busts. When I say busts, I mean guys who, when they left the team that drafted them, they barely got paid more than league minimum on a second contract. Or if they got a second contract at all. Look at this. The draft starts with Eric Fisher at offensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. And Luke Jokel, who was supposed to be the first one, goes second to the Jaguars. Do you know he never made a Pro Bowl and eventually ended up getting bounced around the NFL? The Dolphins took Deion Jordan as an edge player out of Oregon. He didn't even play out his rookie deal before he got cut. Barkevius Mingo, Jonathan Cooper, Tavon Austin, who the Rams traded up with the Buffalo Bills. They traded up to get Tavon Austin, who then was at Buffalo Bills training camp. Like what, 4 years ago?
I don't know. Let me see.
D. Milner, a cornerback.
2022 practice squad.
D. Milner, a cornerback out of Alabama. Just never was. Not even a has-been, a never was. DJ Fluker.
Bills legend Star Latulele.
Jarvis Jones. Bjorn Werner. This giant Hungarian kid who just, like, what were you doing in the first round? Why were you taking this guy? Datone Jones and Sylvester Williams. Matt Elam.
Jonah Mathis in the comments. Springville Ponderosa was bulldozer. Sad that was fancy diner back then.
I love that he's hammered right now because he's supposed to say bulldozered, and that was a fancy dinner back then. Yes, Ponderosa, if you lived in North Collins, was fancy eating. It's my grandmother's favorite restaurant. We would go there every year for Mother's Day. And also, we would stop there every year I left the Great Valley Regatta because we were so hungover that it was the only restaurant that would have us, and they couldn't turn us away at the door. And I would eat a metric, like I would probably eat 2 pounds of bacon. That was it, just bacon. Bacon over tater tots, Chris. Can you think of a better breakfast with a fried egg on top?
Mm-mm.
No. But that draft wasn't without value, right? Like, that draft was laughably bad in the first round. And it was because the projections were everywhere. And I don't know, everything was a shit show. The Buffalo Bills fared the worst that they possibly could have. I mean, when you think about what things could have been for Buffalo, in 2013, our class was atrocious. Chris, so it started with EJ Manuel. You know who our second round pick was?
Kiko.
Who do you think was third?
I don't know.
TJ Graham, the guy we traded up for ahead of Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson. Yeah, and also the you look at there's a lot of videos on YouTube because it's better with the NHL, the trade tree. But if you look at the EJ Manuel trade tree, that trade also got us LaShawn McCoy because we did take Kiko Alonso and then we flipped him for McCoy later.
Literally everything else we touched in that draft was crap. Everything was terrible. Buddy Nix did some of the worst work I've seen. Marquise Goodwin was the only other player out of that draft class to make it multiple years. It was like Robert Woods.
Teddy. I got to go to Teddy. It was a good month if I got a Ponderosa steak with my dad. Sorry if that is unrelatable, Drew.
What's funny is the guy reached out to me once. I think I might have said this on this podcast. He reached out to me once and was like, hey, I'm kind of a visual learner. Can you write me an essay about what your life has been like and send it to me? And I'll read it over with my boys and get to know you better. I was like, son of a bitch, you don't get to give me fucking homework. I don't know you. I'll fight. This is a Boy Named Sue territory. I will fight you the second I see you before I talk to you. We can't have a conversation until I put my hands on you. It's wild, the audacity of this dude. So, in other words, Kiko Alonso back for LaShawn McCoy. Let's the Bills approached that draft. Chris, do you know why it went so poorly?
Because we traded back for our quarterback?
No. It's because most of their picks were based around the idea of need. Need. Right? The Bills needed a quarterback. We needed a linebacker. We needed to double dip at wide receiver, triple dip at wide receiver. And we needed speed. So we're going to take TJ Graham and Marquise Goodwin and Robert Woods. And it turns out Robert Woods was the best of them, and he still went on to retire as a Ram because it's where he had his best success. It's atrocious, right? And yet, if you look at that draft class, there was a ton of solid talent that fell in that draft as a whole to other teams. 2013 crucified the Buffalo Bills because we had a shitty front office that was married to the idea of need. Meanwhile, Philadelphia got Zach Ertz when they didn't need him. The Carolina Panthers took K'Wan Short, not realizing he was going to become one of the better pass rushing defensive tackles in the NFL. The Pittsburgh Steelers got Le'Veon Bell in the second round. Travis Kelce, Larry Warford, okay? Just a monster on the interior offensive line. Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. He was a third-round pick. He fell because teams kept drafting for need. Instead of saying, wait, this is a bad class. Keenan Allen at wide receiver. Keenan Allen, Chris, how long was Keenan Allen's career? Do you want to give that a goog?
He's still playing, isn't he?
He could be by the end of the free agency cycle this year. He is still in the NFL, drafted in 2013. So what's that? 13-year career. He was a third-round pick and a productive third-round pick.
Currently a free agent.
There are players in this draft who, just like in 2013, will make a giant difference. It's just, are you the GM who's so wrapped up in your own need that you miss them? Right? Like reaching for a perceived need over who is just a talented football player in this class can get you killed, because then you're zigging while everyone else is going, well, then I would have taken that guy because he's a real football player. It's how you trade for a TJ Graham because you're so convinced I need a wide receiver who can do X versus, I don't know, that quarterbacks. I don't have a quarterback. I know I just spent a first round pick on one. But also, I don't even know if he's that good. I could double dip right now and just take Russell Wilson, and maybe the Buffalo Bills are already a Super Bowl winner. No one will ever know. That's the crazy thing about this. So now when you think about this year's draft class through that lens, and you say to yourself, the E.J. Snyder details in this podcast all the ways that this is going to be difficult for GMs, because it's going to require a real set of balls and some strong voices in the room to make sure your team isn't the one reaching on a lesser talent just because of a perceived need. Because busts don't help anybody. Drafting Deion Jordan, 5th overall, just because you needed an end didn't help you.
Third
overall? Holy shit. That's my point. You get killed doing that. And so now you look at Brandon Beane and you say, do I trust this guy to make the right calls? Because there's a few different philosophical ways to approach a draft like this. And honestly, they all scare the shit out of me as a Buffalo Bills fan. The first one, be aggressive, right? We've already talked to 2 different people who analyze the draft, and Bruce Nolan and Russ Brown. And they've both told us the same thing, Chris. They have fewer first-round grades on players this year than they have over the last 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, I believe you'll see it on our page sometime this weekend, but I believe Russ Brown said he had 11 or 12 first-round grades, but then also put the caveat, I don't know if, it's me growing as an evaluator where I'm tighter on what I see is what is a first-round grade, but yeah, it's not looking good.
So then if that's where you live and you say, okay, only 15, but 32 teams have to pick, you've got a couple choices. You can be aggressive. You can say, hey, if I really do think, like, here's the thing. Everyone's enamored with the idea that Casey Concepcion was one of the Bills' top 30 visits. Official top 30 visit. You say, all right. yeah, wide receiver. When he falls to us, don't even think about it. Between his combine and his workouts, it's possible he's viewed as the best pure route runner in this class by about mid-April. So him falling to 26 is an absolute pipe dream. But if you can get up the board without sacrificing too much of your future, and I mean, how do we qualify what too much is? If you want to win a Super Bowl, you need those types of players. Maybe that's how you come out of this draft a winner, considering how unproven the rest of the class is. You get real aggressive. You package up what's left of day 2, a bunch of day 3, maybe a next year day 2. And you find your way up that draft board to where you are the proud owner of a KC Concepcion. The question is, do we trust Bean to target the right guy to make that kind of gamble pay off? I mean, Brandon Bean was the guy who decided that Xavier, what was it? He didn't want a Xavier Legette. And who's the Chiefs receiver there? The speedster?
Xavier Worthy.
He didn't need a Xavier Worthy because we didn't need speed, right? We don't need fast receivers to take the roof off, even though during the introductory press conference for his new head coach, Brandon Bean flat out said, I understand that we need to introduce like deep passing to our offense. Okay, sure, whatever. Do we trust that Bean is the right guy to package up a bunch of capital and make an aggressive move to get into that top 15 of the draft, where you're probably going to land one of the only players with a first round grade on him in the entire draft class? I don't know. Chris, do you trust him?
No, not Brandon Bean.
In the comments, do you trust Brandon Bean to make that call?
Here's the thing. With Brandon Bean, I'm going to trust him with certain positions. Like, I'll say second round picks, I'm not going to trust Bean altogether. Linebacker, I kind of trust Bean to get somebody, whether it's at the front or the middle of the rounds. Dorian Williams, not bad of a selection. Terrell Bernard, not bad of a selection. Eddie Uwafoshio, a little bit of a miss. But for the most part, I'll take Bean linebacker position in the draft anywhere.
What's fascinating about what you're describing is the idea that he finds value later, but also that's arguably where it's harder to find value.
Yeah. You can go Elam to Benford. Same draft, different rounds.
It's harder to find a 5th or 6th round pick that makes a difference for your football team, and the Buffalo Bills currently have multiple of them playing for them right now. That is a testament to the scouting department in terms of their ability to identify talent at the back end of the draft. When it comes to these gritty arguments over who has specific scheme like fit for us, what sucks is at the top of these drafts, they failed to land a singular explosive talent outside of Josh Allen. And I think you could put Ed Oliver maybe in that conversation now after the year he had last year, even though he only played like 5 games. Sophie St. George, I trust Brandon Bean. I think McD mostly screwed up our past drafts. I hope so.
Look at Teddy.
Uwafoshio was such a disappointment because Uwafoshio was great in college and he can't hack the NFL game.
No. Teddy Bandana.
Yeah. Oh, I remember when Lossman did that Buffalo Live Horse shit and me and my idiot family picked up garbage around the city until we oh no. Oh no. Teddy, no. You know what? He owes you for that. You need to come. I'll invite you to the next I'll see if I can talk Ty Dunn into getting him onto his happy hour.
Connor did that too.
Oh no! Multiple people who listen to this podcast were subjected to that nonsense.
I put it in the comments.
Because of JP Lotsman.
I put it in the comments. I knew a woman at Bills Backers of Atlanta. She would go out on Chippewa, and JP would be at like Cowboys by himself. No one approaching him. Like, you're the quarterback for the Bills, and you just go out by yourself, and you're not good enough just to have women come up to you and throw themselves at you.
Well, also,
or those bros. Like,
he also looks like Keanu Reeves with Down syndrome.
Or I think of like bros would approach him like somebody with the character type of I can't think of the character's name in semi-pro where they love Ed Monix, but Ed Monix
he's hooking up with the guy's wife.
Yeah, it's like that.
He's hooking up with the guys. It's one of my favorite things, that tropes of the entire movie. So if we don't trust Bean to be aggressive and take the big swing and really make this class pay off, because he scored one of the handful of elite talents out of this class, then there's always track number 2, which is just be conservative. Trade back into the second round. You know, if the first round seems like your positions of need are all getting picked over, why take a guy at a position of need that won't pan out? Try to steer into the depth of the draft, get more lottery tickets to scratch off, and throw more darts at wide receiver or edge or safety. On its face, it all makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Draft without star power. History shows you it can be done. Pro bowlers in this kind of environment, they fall. Teron Armstead was a second-round pick, and he has been a stalwart tackle for all of his career. Why not see how many of them you can just get a crack at by trusting all the evaluatory work that your scouting department has done over the last 2 years? Counterpoint. Brandon Bean's second rounds have been fucking brutal.
3 of 8.
When I say brutal, guys, I need you to understand what I'm talking about. I'm not going to put Zay Jones on Brandon Bean because that was a Doug Whaley pick. But short of that, you've got yourself a Cody Ford, an AJ Epinesa, a Boogie Basham, which I think is the most egregious one. He just signed a CFL contract. I saw it on Twitter. Boogie Basham over Creed Humphrey. Creed Humphrey is one of the highest paid centers in the NFL, and Boogie Basham just signed a CFL contract.
Just the idea of the transition you could have from Mitch Morse to Humphrey. That's egregious.
Meanwhile, Osiris Torrance, Cole Bishop, Keon Coleman, TJ Sanders. Okay. They're not all, but what I'll tell you is there's been 3 egregious picks there. 3, right? And Keon Coleman is shaping up like he belongs in this category. AJ Epinesa getting signed for a 1-year, $5 million deal after he leaves Buffalo, and you took him in the second round ahead of J.K. Dobbins. And everyone can tell me about his knee injuries and tell me, he would have gotten hurt anyway. I don't know that. What I know is one of them was a really dynamic running back. And there's a reason the Broncos brought him back. There's a reason the Broncos had a stalwart running game until he got hurt. At this point in their careers, even after all these other injuries, you mean to tell me the Buffalo Bills wouldn't have benefited from having that running back instead of whatever who do we have? What was his name? He's so mediocre, I've forgotten him. He went to the Giants after he left
Devin
Buffalo.
Singletary.
Devin Singletary.
And then
by all means, tell me how happy you are with Devin Singletary instead of having a J.K. Dobbins on your team.
And then there was Zach Moss.
Oh my God.
I'm going to make players make a business decision.
Chris, if I add the third round into this, so I have this all filtered in Excel. I took all of the Bills draft history last night, had a glass of whiskey, started going down and trying to figure out who's a star, who's a bust, who was mediocre enough, who was average, right? Like an average football player. Because really, if you're drafting, that's all you want is an average football player. Our third rounds, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary. But before that, it was Adolphus Washington and John Miller and Marquise Goodwin, and it was Alex Carrington, and it was a whole bunch of other bullshit that didn't matter.
Hey, at least
and then this year, they took Landon Jackson, and it's another piece of bullshit that won't matter. What I'm telling you is...
At least none of those guys took a gun to a water park.
Adolphus Washington. Like that dude, how do you show up to a water... I'm going to go down the slip and slide. I might need my Glock. Might need it. It was just one of the dumbest headlines. Like, we didn't need that. From that draft class, Cyrus Kwanjo ends up naked in the field because he got high on synthetic marijuana and ended up just nude and paranoid out in the wilderness. So many ways. Like, going through this exercise, Bills fans, I'm not going to lie to you, it did crush my soul a little bit. We've been a terrible drafting team. We've missed more than we've hit on everything. And it's why we live in a place where we have a MVP quarterback who's trying to be Superman every single week, because we find average. Good for you. You found a Dwayne Carter and a Torrance and a Dorian Williams, and you found guys. You found a Dawson Knox. You know what you didn't find? You didn't find a single number one wide receiver ever.
You know what it's like?
What?
It's like going out every weekend, like single life, going out every weekend, and you're like, you call, like, if I went out every weekend as a single man, and then I just like was texting you every week, dude, I don't know, I'm like on a heater. Every week I'm pulling women. I'm getting somebody home with me every weekend, and then you're like, where are you going? I'm going to Ying's.
I'm going to Ying's. It's like, well, of course, this is terrible.
Yeah, that's where you get average. You get a Cheektowaga 6.
Cheektowaga 6, which is, for those of you out there who don't live in Western New York, that's like everybody else's 4.5. At the end of the day, what I know is Bean's second rounds have been brutal, and the idea of trading back, I don't know that it'll yield better results. It's how we ended up with Keon Coleman. Do you want more of that? Especially in a class like this where it's just as jumbled as to what the value is. I don't think you do. So then you have the third option, which is maybe the most infuriating to every Bills fan out there. And it's do nothing. Stand pat at every pick you have and take best player available across the board. Do you know the balls that it would take to do this? I want you to picture this in your minds. Bills are on the clock. Time's winding down. The 26th pick is in. Goodell walks across the stage, goes to the podium, pulls out the card, goes, there's a block of screaming Bills fans on camera in front of him, and he pulls up the microphone and says, with the 26th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select cornerback Avion Terrell from the Clemson Tigers. What's your reaction? Chris, what's your reaction when the Bills draft another first-round cornerback?
I'll be fine with it.
Tank Ninja first-round kicker season. Dude, if they do a Janikowski, if there was a Janikowski in this draft, I would root for it. Tyler Bass took a pay cut to stay here, baby. He's not long for this world. Go get me a trash can that can kick the ball a mile. Yeah. Janikowski was awesome because he was built like a dumpster with legs, and he would just stand outside the stadium ripping heaters. Chris, ripping heaters. Just like I remember reading an article where they said Janikowski could smoke a cigarette in like 3 or 4 puffs.
It's impressive. There is a famous story with him and John Gruden told it on one of the Barstool shows, but Janikowski, they were in New Orleans and he missed curfew, and he had already missed, this is like his rookie year, he had already missed kicks like weeks 1 and 2, and Oakland moved the ball down the field and got to like a 55-yard range, and then because Gruden was mad, he was like, field goal, and the coordinator, special teams coordinator, was like, "Are you out of your mind? He's drunk." And he was like, "I don't care. I don't like the guy because he's been missing kicks. Get out there." And then he banged the field goal right through the uprights. And like, apparently Gruden met him out halfway on the field and was like, "Great fucking kick." He's fucking drunk.
See, that's what football's all about. That's when dudes are just out there being dudes. But do you know the balls it would take to go out there for Brandon Beane to go select a cornerback who might be the best player available in the draft at the 26th pick? Or defensive tackle Peter Woods, and we would all go, what? Where's our wide receiver? Linebackers. He takes linebacker C.J. Allen out of Georgia. It's a massive upgrade. It's a boon to this defense.
But not for traffic around here.
But it doesn't help people, right? How would you guys feel if there was no edge, there was no wide receiver, there was no safety, simply because the guys left weren't the best players? What if the Bills' first couple picks look like this? They take Terrell out of Clemson with the 26th pick. And then in the third round, when it comes back to him, they take a guard. They take Jeremiah Wright, who we just talked about with Russell Brown during the draft show we recorded earlier tonight. They take Jeremiah Wright, who they go, listen, you are a monster and a giant block of clay that we can make one of the better NFL guards. And every Bills fan would lose their fucking minds about the fact that, oh, you ignored the wide receiver position. Chris, it's going to take balls for Brandon Beane to navigate the landscape of this NFL draft. I feel like there's no good answer for him. Is that a little bit unfair to him and his staff?
Well, I mean, you're the GM. You got to surround yourself with the best scouts, AGMs, associate GMs that you can, and rely on your staff and what they've done over the course of the college season when it comes to scouting. You gotta lean on these guys that they know what they're doing.
I just feel like the way this draft is going to go is going to be a ton of work. And this team is going to have to pick one of the three. And all of them are going to upset somebody somewhere. I don't know what the right answer is. What do you guys think? What's the right answer? Do you want to just trade up, give away all the assets and say, fuck it? Let's go be aggressive and get Casey Concepcion at 13 before he can fall to anybody else who needs him. And we don't care if it costs us next year's 2, next year's 3, next year's whatever, next year's 1. Maybe we don't care because maybe Casey Concepcion is the reason we're winning the Super Bowl, and now that pick is the 32nd pick and no one cares.
He's in for a 30 visit, right? Your favorite?
In for a 30 visit.
30 visit.
Also, Matt Harmon, reception perception. He is one of the most nuanced route runners in the entire class. It's the one thing that this wide receiver core for the Buffalo Bills that I just talked about being one of the better ones in at least the division. It lacks a true separator and route running technician. Concepcion could be that guy for you. The problem is you're going to have to pay a premium to get him. If you go get him, maybe this draft, regardless of what you do on day 3, doesn't fucking matter. This draft is a win. Why? Because you added the one piece that could help you right now, and you go on and you just overpower everybody and win a Super Bowl. You outscore everyone. Every game's a firefight. Doesn't matter what you do at safety. Doesn't matter what you do at linebacker. We backfill. We find plug-in. We get lucky with a couple late round draft picks like we always do. You know, the Christian Benford thing, Chris, you're not wrong. The fact that you find a Matt Milano, the fact that this franchise has found multiple starters, high-level starters, later in drafts than it has early in drafts, it's problematic, but it's also like, hey, these scouts are doing their job. They're identifying guys who are talented and have upside in the right scheme. That's why you're in the 5th round. It's because you don't fit every scheme. You're not ethereal. You need a specific set of, you need a specific environment to thrive.
Specific set of skills. I will find you and I will kill you. Tank Ninja, good route runners worked out well for Ladd McConkey.
Yes, and this is my point.
And
the Bills looked at Ladd McConkey and said, you know what we want? We don't need route running.
No bones about it. Casey Recepcion.
And this is it. The Buffalo Bills had the ability to go get Ladd McConkey. And instead, what they did was they said, hey, you know what I need? I need Keon Coleman.
I need a guy that brings in strippers from Canada.
And allegedly. So what happens is you as a staff now get derided for this. You're downgraded for this in the eyes of fans. Do we trust you to go make the right call when you made the right call? You traded back into the 2nd round. You got another pick. You had Ladd McConkey right there, and instead you took Keon Coleman. Okay. So do we trust him to trade up and that trade target be Casey Concepcion? Or would he take somebody who is lesser talented, but he feels like fills a need and it ends up blowing up in our face again? Or do you think that it's better to just stand pat and say, hey, look, if the best player that falls to us is a guard in the first round or a center, fucking take them because they're the best player in the draft. Yeah, you'll plug holes. And it almost feels, Chris, I'm not crazy. It feels like that might be the way to resolve a lot of your cap problems. Hey, I wouldn't have to pay a center. I wouldn't have to be spending so much on backup cornerbacks off the street. No, I'll just draft them and I'll stock my room with talented DBs and I'll go get D tackles and I'll go get linebackers and I don't care what they cost. I want them because I don't want to have to be paying journeymen. If you take that approach, I feel like that can work this year because we already, as we established, have a higher floor than most other teams.
Yep.
Guys, anyone that can get open farther than 15 yards is preferable. Teddy Bandana. I
Just
love
some great
this.
comments. I took a screenshot, sent some to Doug.
I like Jeremy Rogers. It's going to be a long 4 weeks. Jeremy, you have no idea. This part of the season, I love it and I hate it.
Well, we're gonna be here the next couple of Tuesdays next week. Nate Geary in studio. We're gonna do a live show about the wide receivers in the draft.
The only live draft show that we'll be doing with Nate Geary because nobody knows how to rile that guy up like I do.
Also kind of incorrect. Then we got Matt Waldman. That's going to be pre-recorded. EJ Snyder, another
Anthony
Tuesday.
Prohaska live.
Anthony Prohaska on Monday, April 20th. That's going to be a live show. We're going to talk about the defensive line in the class with Prohaska. And I am going to Indianapolis this weekend, so we will find out if you were here for the medium rare plus conversation at St. Elmo's Steakhouse
I'll
in Indianapolis.
discharge a flare gun in this studio.
Yes. Yeah, I'll be at St. Elmo's on this weekend for a dinner with my wife, and I'll find out what medium rare plus is.
Last thing I'll close with, Teddy Bandana in the comments, Drew allegedly has teeth in his mouth.
Dude, I put that. You didn't even say anything about it.
Nope.
I put out I did something I was uploading the show to YouTube with Bruce Nolan, and it was like, oh, here's a thumbnail that might work, and I clicked on it, and I'm like, this is wrong at all levels. Drew has straight teeth.
AI knows how to straighten my teeth, but it can't spell the word next. It's hilarious where we've come as a society. I wear these things, right? Like
do it again. You got your single.
Like the red badge of honor.
That's also going to be a GIF.
When I tell people, they like my dentist. I got a new dentist, and he looked at me and he goes, "Son, has anyone ever talked to you about Invisalign?" And I go, "Yeah, they all talk to me about it." I go, "And I'll talk to you about it. My wife's hotter than me. I have a good job. I make enough money. I have zero concerns. So who am I trying to impress, you?" And he looked at me and was like, "Noted." Fair enough. I go, "What am I trying to impress, you 70-year-old man with a fucking mirror in my mouth?" Absolutely not. I love my teeth. My mom used to get, Chris, you know how moms are.
Yeah.
My mom used to get real emotional, and she would be like, I would pay for it if you're really, she would hear me make jokes about my teeth. And she'd be like, if you're insecure about it, I could help you pay for it. If it's like, I'm like, "Mom, I have the money." It's about the want.
You were like, that above ground pool we had in my youth was worth me not having straight teeth.
I should guilt him with that one time. Be like, "You guys could buy an above ground pool, but you buy an above ground pool that you buried in the ground, but you couldn't get me straight teeth." Now, they brought it up to me when I was 13, and I was like, "No, I'll look like an asshole. I don't want braces." And now I look back and I go, "Shit, I look like an asshole." But that's par for the course over here at the Rockpile Report. Guys, I appreciate each and every one of you who comes out every single night to join us for this nonsense, but we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Krueger. And this has been your Rockpile Report. I'll see you later.